The Atom Project. So this is the latest sci-fi action film from Netflix, starring Ryan Reynolds and Mark Ruffalo and Jennifer Garner. It is a time-traveling family drama. Ryan Reynolds comes back from the future, crash lands in what I believe is 2018, and runs into his younger self, played by Walker Scobell, who's 10, 12 at the time. He's back in this convoluted plot of having to save the future from something or other. But the movie's more about, the old version meeting the younger version and them kind of talking about like, oh, what happens, or do I do this? Do I do that? The family unit is kind of not in trouble, but they're grieving. They've suffered the loss of their father, played by Mark Ruffalo, who has recently passed. And so we have this very tense family situation where Jennifer Garner is doing her best to just keep everything together, and the child, younger Adam, is just kind of a jerk kid about it, and he's grieving in his own way. He's struggling. He doesn't really know what else to do. So there's a lot of family drama going on as well. Eventually, we have to do some more time traveling, and they're being chased by evil time traveling corporate people from the future, led by Catherine Keener. We get some action, we get family drama. This actually works a lot better than most Netflix films. Usually Netflix films really suffer in the writing. This is a lot better than most, but it still has its issues. So, Zach, what'd you think?
I was surprised by the Atom Project, actually. When Andy pitched it for the show last week, I thought, okay, yeah, it's on streaming. It's easy to get to. We've been doing a lot of theatrical films lately. It's got Ryan Reynolds from Sean Levy, the director of Free Guy. Sure, right? Like, it'll be a 116-minute streaming film. Great, right? The Atom Project. Actually better than I thought it was going to be. And that's saying something, because often on this show, Andy and I have come to find that when a movie is Netflix original, it's probably not going to be that good. But the Atom Project excels in its script. Like, it's clever writing, and it's kind of time travel as a plot device keeps you interested for nearly the whole runtime. I'll be honest, there were some parts where I got a little bored. It felt a little dull. And the budget trappings of this movie do start to creep in on it. But
Ryan Reynolds took all the money.
Surprisingly fun. Yeah, he for sure did. Absolutely. Yeah, Ryan Reynolds is definitely the meat of this. So, Andy, where do you want to start talking about it?
Let's get into the plot a little bit more. So Ryan Reynolds has come back to essentially save his wife, who also got lost in some sort of other time traveling thing. His wife's played by Zoe Saldana. She shows up a little bit later. He is injured because he's been running from some bad people. There's a whole lot of things that happen off screen. He's like, oh, the future's terrible. Everything's been destroyed, or we have to stop this or that from happening. But we never actually see it. We just kind of are told through it. And I really hate when that happens. Like, I hate when a movie tells me how bad the future is, and then we never see it. Tenet does it the same way. Terminator's guilty of that.
Yeah, pretty much anything with an opening, any sci-fi movie with an opening text block will do that. They'll be like, well, here's a bunch of exposition we're going to tell you instead of show you. It's hard to get away from. Even the good ones do it. Blade Runner 2049 has that. Dune does not have that.
See, Blade Runner 2049 shows us this terrible future.
Well, it's still, yes, true. You're right. It does get to the ambiance fast. Anyway, sorry.
There's a lot of great chemistry between Ryan Reynolds and Walker Scobell, because they're both, it's supposed to be the same person, so they're both wisecracking people with attitude, and so they're kind of poking at each other the entire time. The difference is that Ryan Reynolds is the older, hopefully more mature person who regrets a lot of his kind of behavior and actions of his younger self, and he's trying to kind of impart some of this, like, hey man, don't do this or don't do that or don't be this way because of things that happen in the future. Also, this kind of has a little bit of a time travel caveat. It's always interesting what rules time travel movies decide to establish. One of the questions brought up is, if the younger one does something, does the older one instantly, like, is it a memory created in his head and something like that? In this movie, the answer is no. When he returns to his main timeline, all those memories will come flooding in. But it's the opposite in Looper. It's the opposite. It's in Looper, anything you do is instantly remembered by your older self.
Yes. So this movie's main gimmick is there's two main gimmicks to the Adam Project. Number one, Ryan Reynolds. Just playing Ryan Reynolds. He's doing the snarky Deadpool Ryan Reynolds the whole movie.
Van
That's
Wilder.
his character. Yes, Van Wilder, Just Friends, Waiting, Ryan Reynolds. Like, it's the Ryan Reynolds it's the Ryan Reynolds you love. Even in Free Guy, he was a bit of a departure from traditional Ryan Reynolds because he was kind of the smiling NPC character named Guy. Here he's snarky, he's sarcastic, he's Ryan Reynolds. And the kid is Ryan Reynolds too, right? Like, it's the same kind of energy. So the kid also is slinging Ryan Reynolds' line. And because the kid is Ryan Reynolds, older Ryan Reynolds gets to bully a child, which we get to watch in this movie. He doesn't once he does actually physically bully a child, but it's a different child. Anyway, the other reason this movie works is the gimmick. It's time travel, right? And what's great in this movie that so many time travel movies don't really want to explore is what happens when you run into yourself. Back to the Future used to say time paradox, right? The universe turns in on itself. You can't do it. You cannot meet your future or past self. Looper says
Time Cop says you'll explode.
Yes, Looper says you can do it, but it's nothing really good's going to happen. Like, it's going to get bad to worse really quickly. And the Adam Project runs that straight into itself by telling you in the trailer your older and younger self are going to meet. That's like the start of it, which is interesting and makes for a really good first act. Like, this kid's pretty good. Walter Scobell's actually pretty solid. This is his first feature film. Good for him. Ryan Reynolds is solid, right? It keeps it moving. Though I should say, like I said at the top, you do start to feel the budget trappings of this movie because this is a small budget film. It does not have many sets, and a lot of it is shot on soundstage or green screen, even though it looks like it's in the forest. And if you're looking for it, you do start to notice that. And I think that's one of the reasons this movie works really well on streaming. If it was on a big screen, you'd be able to see those seams a lot easier. But at home, and a quick little story, it's not bad.
Yeah, there are some action sequences. Because the movie actually starts out a little bit slow, but then there's a lot. These bad guys from the future show up and they're trying to arrest Ryan Reynolds, who's also, I guess, kind of a military person. So he can fight too. He's got this thing that's totally not a lightsaber, but is a lightsaber.
The script's very pop culture. Yeah. Lightsabers, Back to the Future is mentioned. Yeah.
And so, he has hand-to-hand combat fights with these baddies from the future several times. Again, Catherine Keener is chasing him down because he knows something or he's going to stop or what, it doesn't matter. But the action is okay. It definitely seems a little small budget, and again, that's where you're like, that's where the Netflix is.
Yes, most of our B plot, all the stuff that takes place in the future that has driven our pilot Ryan Reynolds back to the past, happens all in dialogue. You don't ever see it. They don't ever show it. There's characters just saying like, "I can't believe you betrayed me, and now we're here," or "Well, you left me there, and now we're here in time." Which is fine, but it definitely sidelines the kid. And the movie starts and ends with it kind of being his story at that time in 2018. But it very quickly becomes older Ryan Reynolds movie. Like, he really picks up that plot and runs with it. One of the things that's notable outside of like the limited locations and the CGI, which is fine, is the cast list. Andy said at the top, there's a bunch of good names in here just off the poster. Ryan Reynolds, Mark Ruffalo, Jennifer Garner, Walker Scoble. His name's Walker, not Walter. Oh my God, Andy.
Walker Scoble.
Kid's name is Walker. Walker Scoble. Sorry. He's good. I mean it. He's not bad. He's actually good in this movie. Catherine Keener, Zoe Saldana. Most of those people are not on set for more than like a few days. Yeah. Ryan Reynolds is most of the movie. Jennifer Garner's on set for like 2 or 3 days. Like, Catherine Keener wasn't around that much. Like, they do a good job of kind of plucking these characters and placing them individually alongside one another, so you don't really see them all together, and you never really get any kind of big denouement where all of our cast is together at once. But it works. Like, it's a small budget movie, but it's got a fun script. It's got a good amount of locations, and the time travel thing is enough to keep you interested. And you're like, okay, yeah, like, it's 100. I was wrong at 160 minutes. So 106 minute Netflix movie. It's great. Easy, light popcorn movie.
Yeah, I was going to mention Mark Ruffalo's in here. He plays a scientist. At one point, they go back in time again, the two of them, to see him for plot reasons. And so you have a fun moment where Mark Ruffalo has two versions of his son he gets to interact with, and there's, so they do some of that kind of fun sci-fi thing.
Yeah, like and that a little like how Scream 5 like had a fun script because it's meta. This has a fun script because it's constantly turning characters back on themselves, and like just like Looper or Back to the Future or any other decent time travel movie, like you're gonna have fun, but before you know it, the movie's gonna be rolling the credits, and you're like, man, that was a good time. And I think that's what's so effective about this movie is that it's disarmingly good. I did not think it was going to be as good as it was. It's not great, but it's pretty solid, right, Andy?
Yeah, I think so.
Any other thoughts for recommendations?
I'm ready.
Andy, would you recommend Netflix's The Adam Project?
What's it? I would say save it for streaming. Yeah,
Yep.
it's a fun little movie. It's if you got some time and you're looking for something fun, it's got some action, it's got a little bit of family drama. Jennifer Garner's kind of sidelined, unfortunately.
I'm telling you, a few of them are, but yeah.
Yeah.
To me, anyway. I like it.
Yeah, and again, the biggest issue with this movie and most Netflix stuff is the writing, and I feel like they almost had like this needed a few more drafts to kind of cohesively put like the action stuff with the family stuff and really make it work better. Like it could have been a much better movie, but I'm sure it's fine by Netflix standards.
Sorry, I was going to say that reminds me. There's after the show's over because it's a bit of a spoiler. There's a scene in this movie that I want to talk to you about that I swear was an insert in post. Like there's no way they shot it and meant to include it where it's at. But if I tell you it, I think you'll know what it is. Anyway, sorry. Is it my turn to review? I didn't mean to cut you off. I totally.
Yeah. So I would recommend it. It is better than most Netflix movies. It's a fun little thing. It's not too serious. There's a lot of jokes. It's definitely hurting on it's budget action, budget bad guys, budget lightsaber, all that stuff. But it was fine.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. This movie works because of the platform it's on. If I had seen this in theaters, I'd be like 1 out of 10. This movie's trash. This is like Gemini Man. Like it's bad. But because I saw it on Netflix and I didn't really know what I was getting into, like surprisingly decent. Like if you're looking for something decent to throw on Netflix, it's pretty light. You don't have to think too much. You can hang out and have dinner with your family or whoever. Like it's PG-13 at best. Like, yeah, Adam Project. Solid little sci-fi film on Netflix. And I feel like I can give a better review because of that. Like because the barrier to entry is lower. You're not going to pay $20 going to a movie theater. The Adam Project. Pretty decent.